What is up, guys? So in today's tutorial, we are going to be building a to-do list app with React.js. We are going to store our to-dos in local storage, which means our data is going to persist even if we refresh the page. Now we can also add a to-do, delete a to-do, and even check a to-do as completed. So if this sounds interesting, stay with me to the end of this video. And if you are new to this channel, please subscribe, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comment section as well. Now let me demo the app we have here. So as you can see, this is our front end for the app. This is the UI we have here. You can come here and input a to-do. So let's say add a new to-do and hit enter. Then you can see it here. It has been added. Now if you want to check a to-do as completed, you can just hit one of these buttons. So let's say I'm done learning React for today. I can just check it. So as you can see, it's checked. And you can check another one, build an app. You can check another one, write some code, build a to-do list app. Yeah, so you can as well delete a to-do. You can hit the button here, the bin button here, and it's going to be deleted. So you hit it, it's deleted, it's deleted. You can delete this one as well. You can delete this one as well. Add a new one, add another one, and it will be added. And I'm about to refresh the page. Notice that even after refresh, we are going to see our data or our to-dos still persisting, which means it's still going to remain on the front end of the app. Yeah, so as you can see, we still have our to-dos here, which means it's persisting. We are storing it in local storage. Now, if you want to learn how this is done, just stick with me to the end of this video and you're going to benefit a lot. Okay, so without any further ado, let's start building our app. So let me just open my command prompt and create a new React app. Let me change the directory to my desktop because I'll be having my directory over there. So we create a new React app. You run this command in command prompts or your terminal anywhere that you feel suits you. Just run npx create React app and then the name of your app. So I'm going to call it to do list app YT for YouTube. Yeah, and this is going to go ahead and bootstrap our project and create a new React project for us. So it's going to take a couple of seconds or minutes, or if you may say. So yes, this is going to bootstrap our React project for us, basically. Now you have to take note that for this to work, you need to have Node installed. So if you haven't installed Node, please install Node. Go to the nodejs.org and then install Node. Then you can proceed with creating the React app. All right. So I think it's almost done. Okay, so we have successfully created a new React project. Now, if you see something like this, happy hacking, then it means we have successfully installed React, created a new React project. Yes. Now, let me change directory to let me just copy this command here because that's what we are going to use to change directory into our project. So cd to do list app YT, that's the name of our project. Now that I've done that, I'm going to do code dot open this project in VS Code for me. Now, that's the text editor I'll be using for this build. You can feel free to use any text editor at all you feel comfortable using. Yes, so I'm going to be using oops. Okay, so let me bring this back. Um okay, so yeah. So this is our new React project we've created, and it comes with some standard settings, like some standard codes, or if I may say. So let me just start this React project here. Open your terminal. I used Control J to open the terminal. You can use Control J or Control plus tilde or the backticks to open your terminal. Now to start the project, you run npm start in the terminal. Now this is going to start the project for us. Yes. But by default, when you create a new React app, it comes with certain codes for us, and but most of which we don't need. So we are going to be cleaning some stuffs up here. We're deleting certain files. Yes. So starting the development server. Okay, so if you run the npm start and this app opens and you see this spinning React logo, then it means everything is working fine. We can start building our app. Okay, good. So like I said earlier, we need to clean certain things up. We don't need this file. We can delete it. The setup.test report web vitals, we can delete them. This one as well. We need the index.js. We also need the index.css and app.test. We're going to delete it. Yes, let me delete this file to recycle bin. And then inside of the index.js, we can clear these things and remove this as well. And this one, remove this import because we deleted that file. And then inside of the okay, so this is the index.js file, and I think I've accidentally deleted app.js, but no worries, we can still create it right now. So the app.js is being imported here like so, and that's in the root file. Yeah, so let me create this app.js file here. New file, call it app dot let me just say app.js like so. And I'm going to use this snippet here, RAFCE, to write these things from me. We don't need an import statement. Yeah, so now we have app.js here. Now everything should now work. Okay, so now if we go back to our app, if we go back to our app here, we are getting an error here. What is it saying? Compiled model not found app.js. Okay, so yes, it's saying it can't find app.js. We need to change the import here, make it app.js like so. Okay, so I think this should fix it. Good. So as you can see, we've cleaned everything up. We can now see this app here because that's the file we have in here. That's the file we have in here. And the only thing in it is this app here, like so. Good. And inside of the app.css2, we are just going to clear everything. We're going to clear everything and leave this one here. And then in the index.css as well, we are going to clear these ones, and then we are going to add a new style, like a base target all the elements in our project. So we are just going to see margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box. Now what this would do, this border box thing here means is we are going to be specifying our own paddings. We don't want any automatic paddings, like if I may say. We don't anytime we add paddings, it should take the specific width of our divs. We don't want any additional spacing. Yeah, so that's what this box sizing border box here means. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Now let's start building our app. Now, first of all, let me import this CSS, this app.css file, because that's the file in which we are going to be styling our app.js from. So I have to import it at the top here. Import. It's in the same directory, so I'm going to call it app.css. Good. So now we've connected our CSS file to this app.js file here. Good. So now let me give it a class name of app like so, and let's start styling it. Let me divide this window, not this way, like so. Bring this one here. Good. So now we can see the changes both ways. Okay, so inside the app.css, we are going to start styling it. And let me remove this one here. And first of all, we are going to do display flex, and then we are going to align items centrally. So everything is going to be in the center, and then classify content center. Going to make sure that every content in the body is centered. And then we're going to give it a height of 100 view height, which means it is going to be the height of the screen, and then a width of 100 view width, like so. And I'm going to give it a background color of this hex code hash 181824, like so. Now we should see a change right now. Good. Yes, so now we have the same background as what we have here in the finished one, like so. So we just built our base star. Now let's go back to the app.js file, and then let's start building our app. So the next thing we want to do is create a div which will contain everything we have here. This box, a div which will contain this input field and then this to do field here. So that's the next thing we're about to build. Add this div here, like so. And then let's give it a class name of um, class name app underscore to do, like so. Let's go ahead and style it straight ahead, and let me open this, and then in here going to start styling it. Now I'm going to give it a height of 28 rem and a width of 28 rem as well. Let me give it a background color so that you see the change of say red. Yeah, so basically this is the size of everything. So let me clear this one, and then back into our app.js, we want to now start building this input field here. That's the next thing we want to do. This input field we have here, that's the next thing we want to do here. And obviously it's going to be within the app to do tag here, and we're going to create another div. And we're going to give it a class name of app underscore input underscore wrapper. That's going to be the class name. Now I'm calling it. Now you could notice a coordination between my class name. All is beginning with app. Yeah, it's called the BEM convention. You make sure that the parent tag or the parent element has a specific class, and the children who are going to have their class names based on the parent's class. So app something, and so on. Okay, so this is the tag we are about to start now inside of the app.css. Then we paste it here. So once again, this is what we are building. This is what we are working on right now. The input tag here. Okay, so with the input wrapper, we are going to display flex it as well, and then we're going to align items center for everything to be in the center, and then we're going to give it a width of 100%. We want it to take the width of the app to do. So I'm going to give it a width of 100%, and then a height of 2.5 rem, and then let me give it a background color of this hex code 25273C, like so. Now you can see it appears here. I've given it the width and all those stuff. And also we want it to be rounded, so we're going to do a border radius of 15 pixels, like so. Great. So now we can see that the edges are rounded. Okay, so let's go back to the app.js, and then let's add the input tag as. Okay, so our input tag is going to be in here, like so. So I think since this input tag is going to be in here, I think this should be a form. It should be form instead of just a div, because we'll be submitting it. It will be submitting the form. So basically it should be a form instead of a div. Okay, so it's going to be of input type, no, type of um, text. And then let's give it a class name of app underscore input, like so. Good. Now let's start it inside the app.css. Paste it in here like this, and then we're going to give it flex of one. Now flex of one, no, flex of one like this. Flex of one, as you see, it stretches the input field at as much space available. So suppose the div in which it's contained is spans through the whole screen, it will take all the space. So flex one basically stretches all to all the available space. Okay, so we are going to give it an outline of none because we don't want any outline when we click on it, and then border of none, and then let's give it a padding on the right of one rem, and we do the same thing, padding on the right of one rem, then we give it a font size of one rem, and so let me see the text in here. Okay, cool. Font size of one rem, and let's give it a background color of transparent. We want it to be transparent. It should be the color of the background, and then the text color. So right now the text color is black. It should be the text color should be white. So we do color and then white. Yes, so it should now change when I type. Now we want there should be some sort of space in here. So we should do the same thing we did here. So instead of padding right, it's going to be padding left, like so. Now I should shift a bit. Okay, great. Yeah, so now I think that's it for the input. The next thing we want to add here is a button. So as you can see, there is a button on the side here, right? This green button. So that's the next thing we want to do. Okay, it's going to be in the form as well. Now remember that we give this form flex, a display of flex, which means the items we are going to put in here are going to be side by side to each other. All right, so it's going to be in a div because we are going to put something in this div. So let's give it a class name of app underscore input underscore button, and then let's copy this and then over to our app.css. Let's start it, paste it in here, and let's give it a width of 3 rem, and then let's give it a height of 100%. We want it to take all the available space, so 100%, and then a background color of this hex code for EC032, like so. And then let's give it a display of flex because we want to apply the align item center to it. So display of flex, and then the align items center, and then justify content center because we'll be putting an icon in it and we want that icon to remain in the center. So that's why we need this style in here, the display flex, align item center, and then justify content center, and then the color of that icon that we will add should be white, and then the cursor should also be pointer, like so. Okay, now let's see what we have here. But notice that this is rounded, right? It's rounded, but then what we have here is not rounded. It's because the div within which the button is rounded, and we want it to take that rounded, so it's sort of overflowing from that div, this whole div here. So what we can do is inside our app input wrapper here, we can add another CSS style in here and say overflow hidden. Because right now it is overflowing and we want the overflow part to be hidden. So you notice how everything snaps back in. Yeah, so that's how we can fix that. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is add the icon, right? We want to add the icon which we have in here. We want to add the icon. So to do this, we are actually going to install a package called React Icons, right? We're going to install React Icons. So that's the icons we're going to use. So to do this, you do npm I react dash icons. It's going to install it for us. Okay, so while that is installing, let's head over to React Icons and let's see how we can use it. Okay, so let me open a new tab here and open React Icons here. So React dash icons. Just do React Icons and click the first link you see on Google. So basically, this is the link, right? Now you can search any icon at all that you want. So for what we are using here, it's an arrow, right? So let's search arrow, and you are going to see a number of options that you can choose from. You see a number of options, a lot of arrows, and you choose which one you think you want. Okay, so what we are going to use is this one, this TB arrow bar down. So when you click on it, it's going to copy this text for you. But not just that, when you come to the home, you are going to get a documentation on how to use it. But we just want how to import it. Yeah, so just copy the import statement we have in here, and then inside of here, I'm going to paste it in here like this. And then we'll replace the icon they have in here with what we copied, which is this one. And notice that it starts with something before then the name of the icon. So TB arrow bar down. So this TB is sort of the model within which that icon is coming from. And in React icons, there are always models for the icon. So this FA here is a different model. It's not the same as the icon we are using here. So since this icon starts with a TB, then it means this model is supposed to be TB as well, like so. Good. Now we can come in here and then add paste in this icon here like so. Yes, so let me go back and divide the screen. Okay, so let's go back to what we have. So now we can see we have the icon here. Now it takes a prop of size. Now you can add a size we want. So we're going to use 24 as the size of our icon. Yes, as you can see here. Yes, so I think that's just about it for the input stack. So the next thing we want to do now is add this do field here. I want to add this to do field here. Now, since it's separate from this input field, it's not going to be in the form, right? It's not going to be inside of the form. It's going to be underneath it. So you're going to add that div underneath the form, and then we continue from there. Let's give it a class name of app underscore to do underscore list, because that's where our list is going to be. All right, and then yeah, let's start styling it. Let's copy this, and then inside of the app.css, let me open this. Yes, inside of the app.css, I'm going to paste it in here like so, and then start styling it. So I'm going to give it a background color, same as what we have here. The same thing here. So let me copy it and then paste it in here like so, and then let's give it a height of 100%. A height of 100%. And then so you can see it has appeared now, but it's very close to the input field. We will fix that real quick, and then let's give it a margin top to fix that. A margin top of 2 rem, and then let's make overflow auto. And we are doing this because overflow auto will automatically detect that our items being added here are excess, so it should add a scroll bar for us so that if there is more to do, we can just scroll through them. So that's why we are adding this overflow auto. Yes, so I think that's pretty much it. add items. Good. Now the next thing we want to do here is create these components, right? So this is a component. Think of this as a component. The to-do items. So I add a to-do here and it creates a component, right? So when I come to create a component, this component is going to contain this radio button here, and then it's also going to contain add this delete button as well, and then this field where we can add the to-do text and stuff. So this is the component we are coming to build. So I want to create a folder in our root file inside the SRC. We are going to create a folder, right click and click new folder. I'm going to call it components, and then inside components we are going to add a new file called how should we even call it, list item. We're going to call it list item.js, like so. Now like we did earlier, RAFCE, to bring in this import. And this is an extension I'm using if in case you are interested. It's called React Snippets also, I think. So you can install it from VS Code extensions and then use this shortcut to get this base code for you by just typing in the short code. Okay, so now we have this here. The next thing we want to do is, first of all, let's give it a base class name, a parent class name, right? Now it's going to be to do, like so. And then okay, so let me put in a dummy text in here and see if we can have it here. So inside of the app to do, let me import it here. Inside of our app.js, I'm adding the new component in here, which is list item. Now this will automatically import it for me. Import list item from then the location component and then list item, like so. So now we have it there. So if I come in here, you can see we have the dummy text I added inside the list item. We have it here, which means I've successfully connected that component to our project or our main app.js file. Okay, so now let's continue with our build. So let me start this to do inside of the CSS. So not so we are going to have to create a new CSS file for this component, because this one we are using it for the app.js. So inside the component, I'm going to create a new file called list item.css, and then we're going to import it here. I'm going to import inside that same directory list item.css, like so. Okay, now we've imported it, so we can now start styling it. And then first thing is we want it to display flex, because we have items in it which we want them to be at the side of each other, and then they should be centered, right? So align items centrally, and then I'm going to give a padding of 14 pixels, and then we're going to give a padding left of 20 pixels, and then we do the same thing but on the right side. So a padding right of 20 pixels, and then it's going to take a width of 100%, like so. Okay, great. So let me give it a dummy background color. Let's see what we have here. We see red. Okay, so this is what we have here for now as the input item. So let me clear this out. Okay, then back to the list item. Let's putting things together. Okay, so the next thing we want to add is create this radio. Now HTML provides a radio for us that we can actually use, but we are going to create our own custom radio and add functionalities to it. Right, so that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, great. This radio button is what I'm going to do next. Let's go back to our app. Okay, so let's add, we're going to put it in a div, right? So let's add a div, and then let's give it a class name of to do underscore radio, like so. And we're going to add an icon. Okay, so because when you come in here and you click on it, you realize there's an icon in in the middle, right? This check icon, this correct icon. I'm going to put it in here. All right. So I'm going to import it the same way we did inside of the app.js. So let me copy this here from here, and then no, not this. This. Let me copy it, and then inside of there, let me paste it in here. But I'm not coming to use this icon. I'm coming to use one that I've already copied. So you can go to React icons and basically just search for an icon that looks like that. So no, let me paste this instead. Okay, and then it's coming from the AI model. So I'm going to remove it from the AI. Then let me copy this and then paste it in here, like so. I should see it appear somewhere here. Okay, great. Now we have the icon here. All right. So let's head over to the CSS and then start styling this to do radio. So that's the list item CSS. Let me start styling them. Okay. So let me paste the style name here, the class name in here. And then it's going to take a height of 24 pixels and a width of 24 pixels as well. And then a border radius of 50 pixels. Now this is going to keep it rounded, right? And let's give it a background color of this hex code hash AD02FE, like so. It's going to give it this color. Great. Let's give it a border. Let's give it a border of 1 pixel, sorry, 1 pixel solid, and then another hex code of BF56FB 56FF rather, like so. So that's the border we've given it. And then let's give it a cursor of pointer, and then let's give it a margin right, because we want to space it between the other items. So margin right of 1 rem. Yeah, and then let's make the icon be in the center. So do display flex, and then align items center, and then justify content center, and then I'm going to give it a color. And notice how it is now at the center. I'm going to give it a color of white, like so. Okay, great. So now we have a checkbox, a radio button here, a custom radio button here. We'll be adding the functionality soon enough. Okay, so let's see the next thing we want to add. So we want to add this text field here. So after the checkbox, now we have a text field here, and we have the bin here. So that's the next thing we want to add. So I'm going to create another div in here with a class name of to do underscore text. All right, and then let's place a dummy text in here of, say, testing, so that we see the changes. Testing, like so. Now let's start that. Let's start this inside the list item.css. Okay, and okay, so this is what we want to do here, right? Let me go back to what we're working on. And so I'm going to paste in the style in here for the sake of time, so that I explain and move quickly. Okay, so this is what we have here. So as you can see, the change quickly took effect. Okay, so we are saying that the color of the text should be white, and then it should be flex of 1. So like how we did for the input field, where we flexed it, we gave it a flex of 1 for it to stretch through. That's the same thing we want it to happen here. It should be flex of 1. It should take up all the available space. Yes, and then we are giving it a border bottom of 1 pixel solid of this hex code here. So that's the border we are seeing here. And we are giving it a padding at the bottom, and then a padding at the left. So that's it for the text field there. So the next thing we want to add is this bin So that's the next thing we want to add. So come back in here, and then we're going to add it. Okay, so for that we're going to create another div, and then within that div we are going to import a new icon. Now that icon is called im bin, right? So let me duplicate this and then put in the bin in here, and then it's coming from the im model. So I'm going to do this, and then we're going to give it a class name of to do delete. So to do delete, like so, and then inside of the list item.css, then I come to style it in here to do underscore delete, like so. And then I'm going to paste the styling for that one as well. So as you can see, we have the bin in here. We have the bin in here. So I'm going to paste the code I copied, the CSS style I copied, and then paste it in here, like so. Yes. So we have we have here a cursor of pointer. So when you hover on it, you can see the cursor of pointer in here, and then a color with this hex code, and then we're giving it a padding left and then a padding right of 4 pixels, like so. Yeah, so that's the styling we are giving to the bin over here. Okay, so let's see the next thing that we want to do. So I think, yep, that's pretty much it for the input. Now let's add the functionalities to it, which is the okay, before that, let's start adding the logic to add items to the to-do list. So let's start creating functions, right? Basically, so that's what we want to do now. So let's go back to our list item.js, because we would want to add some things, or well, maybe let's rather, okay, we're going to add some props in here. Then we are going to add, so the props, the props we want to add in is text, and then because the text is going to be in here, like so. So instead of having this static text here, we're going to put in the prop we have in here, text, and then delete to do, delete to do. Delete to do is going to be a function that we are going to create in our app.js real quick. So delete to do, and then it's checked. This is checked is also a boolean, which is going to be toggling through the check radio we've created, a custom radio we've created, and then we have this toggle check here, which is going to be a function for us to go between the checks. So this delete to do here is going to be a function that we're going to place in here. So on click of this div here, I'm going to call the delete to do function, right? It's a prop, so nothing will work now. It's just a prop. We are going to give it a value soon. And then this is checked here. It's a boolean. Okay, it's a boolean, and it's checked here. Now you notice that anytime when I click or check on it, that's when the background color and then the correct icon here appears. So we want it to appear only when the radio is checked. So right now it's unchecked, it's checked. That's the time it appears. So we are going to see in here, instead of having the check icon here directly like this, we are going to put it in this curly braces JSX and see if it's checked, right? It's true, like this. This thing should only appear if it's checked is true. Now this is checked, it means that this is checked is going to be a boolean, right? So now if we go back, we're going to notice that the check icon is gone because now it's checked, hasn't been assigned any value. So it's not true, that it's checked is not true. Therefore this icon is not going to appear, because we are saying that this icon should only appear when it's checked is true. Now toggle checked is going to be what's going to toggle between whether the check icon is going to be checked or unchecked, right? So it's going to happen on the click of that div. So on click, then we add the toggle check here as well. Great. Okay, so let's move into the app.js. And then let's start creating our function. So the first function we want to create is the one that adds to our to do. So add new, and then it adds a new item here. So that's what we want to do now. Okay, great. So I'm going to create a new function, right? I'm going to const call it add to do. Then it's going to be an arrow function like so. Now we are going to create some states. We're going to add some states. We're going to use the React use state hook. Alright, like so. Let me import the use state here, and then I'm going to have an empty string here. I'm going to, instead of first and set first, I'm going to do like so. So set to do like so. Great. Okay, so in our function, we want to add a logic which would actually um, be adding items in an array. So our to do is first of all going to be in an array, and then we are going to send that array to local storage basically. Okay, great. So let me create another state here, which is going to be an array, right? So we are going to call it, instead of to do, we are going to call it all to do's, and then set all to do's. Now instead of it being an empty string, it's going to be an empty array, like so. Okay, great. Now this function here is going to be used to actually submit the form we have here. So we don't want the default behavior of it refreshing the page. So we are going to put this event in here, this e in here, and do e dot prevent default, like so. Prevent default, and then it's a function. So yeah, and then let's create. So every to do item we add, it's going to be an object, right? It's going to be an object which is going to take these properties. So const to do item is equal to an object, right? So anytime we add a to do, we actually going to be adding objects. Now the first item in that object is going to be an ID. How are we going to get our ID? We are just going to use a time, like time of the date in JavaScript. So new date, so call the date function, new date get time. So it's going to give us some codes for the time, which is very unique. So we can actually use that for our ID. And then let's add the text being the actual text for the to do, and this text here is going to be this state we've added here. So text is going to be to do, and then we want to add if the check bar is checked, so it's checked here, and it's going to take an initial state of false. Now this it's checked here is going to be what we are going to use to toggle through this check icon or this radio button here. Yeah. Okay, so now this is what's going to be containing every to do item we add. Okay, so we are going to add a condition here that if the to do, so the to do is the text, if the to do is not equal to an empty string, right? Because we don't want to submit empty strings. We want there to all we want all the time there should be text before we submit the form. Okay, so if the text is not empty, meaning we are making sure that there's actually something written in our input field. So if the text is not empty, I'm going to set all to do's to I'm going to do this, right. I'm going to explain it after. So all to do's dot concat concatenating the to do item like so, and then we are doing dot reverse like so. Great. So what all this means is that when we create, if we don't have an empty text in the input field, then we are setting the all to do's, which is initially an empty array. We are setting it to all to do's. So it's going to take first of all the initial state of the all to do's. So for instance, if the initial state of the all to do's is empty, it means we are taking the empty array and then we are concatenating it, we are pushing a different item, another item to it. So we are maintaining the initial state, which is for now empty, then we are adding the to do item, which is this object, right? And then we are saying dot reverse because if we don't add this method, any new to do we add is going to begin at the top, at the bottom, rather instead of the top. So you realize that in the built one, if we add a new one, it actually adds at the top, right? That's what we want. We don't want it to add at the bottom. Okay, so that's the same thing we want here. We are using the dot reverse just so that anytime we add a new to do item, it starts at the top. Great. So that's what this line here is doing. And then after that is done, the to do we set the to do text, right, to an empty string. Okay, which brings me to the next thing, which is inside the input field we want to set the value of the input field to be to do. So anytime the string is empty, it's going to be to do, it's going to be empty as well. Okay, so we are going to test this function out, and then so for this form we're going to say on submit of this form we are going to call the function, right? And also on click of this div here, where we have the arrow down button, we are going to also apply that same function. So on click, we're applying that same function. All right, so let's add a to do now, and let's see what we have here. Testing. Okay, so I think something is up. Let's see what's the problem. Okay, so I think there's another thing we must add in here. So in the input tag, we should add the on change event, right? For any time we add a new text. So on change, we're going to add a function, and this function is going to be, we are going to write it straight away here. On change, we are going to set, it's an event. So we are going to set all to do's, no, not all to do's. We are going to set to do to event dot target dot value, like so. All right, so now let's see if this works. Okay, great. So now we have it here. So let's say testing to do, and let's hit enter. Okay, it's gone. We are not seeing anything. But if we, okay, yeah, we are not adding it to the local local storage for now, right? But let's log what we have inside all to do. So if we come in here and we do console.log, let me log it in here, and let's see what we have inside of that array. Let me add new in here, and let me inspect the console. Let's check the console in here. So you can see we have an array inside the console. We have an array in here. Okay, so the error we had earlier, that's what you're seeing here. So we have an array in here, and then we can see the items we added, which is the to do items. We have id text, and then it's checked, right? So we have the id, which is the new date dot get time. You see how unique this code is, so we can use it for our id, and then it's checked here, it's false by default. And then we are adding a text. Okay, we're adding a text in here, which is testing to do. So that's the item we added basically. So this is actually the things we are pushing inside of the array. Great. So let me clear the console now and then close this up. So now we have added the add to do functionality. So the next thing we want to add is we want it to send the to dos in that array to the local storage anytime the page is refreshed. So on refresh of the page, it should do that for us. Okay, so I'm going to use a use effect hook from React to do this. So let me create a use effect hook here. Let me use the snippet here. Let me import use effect, and then so I'm importing use effect and then use it from React, as you can see here. So let me clear this ones out and have a clean one here and an empty here. And then so this way I'm going to be storing the items to local storage basically. So on the load page build, we are going to do this. Okay, so this where the logic for local storage. appear. So I'm going to write in the code and then I'm going to explain what we have here. So local storage dot set item, and then I'm going to add a key, which is to do, and then we are going to do json dot stringify, and then we are coming to going to add all to do's here like so. Okay, great. So for local storage only accepts strings, right? Local storage only accepts strings. But what we want to add is an array. Okay, so that's why there is a need for us to convert it to a string in some form. That's why I'm using this json.stringify all to do's to have our array as a string, and then we can push it to local storage. Now in local storage, every item needs a key. Okay, it needs a key and then the value. So the key we are adding here is to do. So when we open the local storage, I'm going to see a key called to do, and it's going to get a value here called, which is all the to do's, and the array we have called all to do's, which contains all our to do's basically. Okay, now if this then means that it is going to run only when the page loads. But what we want it to do is it should run anytime a new to do is added to this array, right? It wants it to run anytime a new to do is added. So what we can do is have this all to do inside this dependency array box here, like so. So it means that anytime we add a new to do inside the array, this line of code here is going to run basically. So that's what this use effect hook is going to be doing for us. So if I add a new item here, see new do is gone, and then another one, and I open my developer console, and then I come to application, and then in here, so as you can see, we have to do's here. We have to do in here like so, and then when we open it, as you can see, we have the items we've added. The ID, that's the ID, and then it's checked as false, and then text is another one. So this to do here is what we are actually having here, right? That's the key we added. The to do's is the other one I built before building this one. That's what I'm saying here. So don't worry about this to do's here. It's not the same as what we have here. This is what we have, the to do in we have here, and you can see the values here. The ID is checked is false, and then the same thing here is new to do. So it means anytime we add a new to do, we are pushing it to local storage. And yeah, that's basically what we are doing here. Now we want to get all the to do's. So now that we have been able to push it, we want to get it, right? That's what we are coming to do next. So now let's create the function to get all our to do's. It's going to be an arrow function. Let me bring it down a bit. Okay, so I'm going to call it get all to do's, and then it's going to be an arrow function. Okay, so we're going to now get all the items we've stored in the local storage. We're coming to get them more inside of this function. So let's create this variable called stored. So we're going to make it equal to json dot parse, and then we are going to get our item. So local storage dot get item, and then you're going to pass in the key you give to your local storage. So the key we gave it is to do, right? That's the same one we gave in here. So that's the same one. So the local storage knows which item we actually want to get. Okay. So local storage dot get item, then we pass in the key. All right. So now we are going to make some checks in here. So if we have something from stored, like so, if we have something from stored, meaning if stored is not undefined, then we are going to do something. We are going to set all to do's, right? So I'm going to set all to do's to stored, like so. So I'm setting all to do's to stored in here, like so. Yes. So what this means is after you have gotten the to do's from local storage, we are setting the array, because when you refresh the page, the all to dos will be empty because it's only stored in memory, right? But we want it to persist. That's why we have it in local storage. So in this function, when we store the to dos inside local storage, when this function is called, we want the items we have in local storage to be stored back into all to dos, into this array. If we want it to be stored back into all to dos, then it will be as if we never lost the all to dos in the first place, basically. So that's what we are doing in here. Now, this function, we are going to call it inside another use effect block, right? Which means it's going to run anytime the page loads. So use effect, and then let me add the functions directly in here. I'm going to take an empty dependency array, and then let me paste in the function in here like so. Great. So anytime the page is refreshed, we are going to set the get all to dos to we're going to set the items from local storage to the get all to dos. Okay, so now that we have it persisting, we can do something in here with the list item. So right now we are only importing the list item here like so, right? What we can do here now is add this curly braces here and add some JavaScript logic to it. So we are going to see, I'm going to map through this all to dos array. So all to dos dot map, and then we're going to add this. We're going to add do like so. Then we're going to do this, and then let's bring this to do item in here, right? Okay, so let's see what we have in here. Not this. Let's see what we have in here. Let's refresh the page. Okay, right now we are not getting anything. Let's add a new to do and let's see what happens. This thing. Okay, great. Great. So now we are actually adding item. Okay. Because when we add a new item, we store it in local storage, and then based on items in the to do, we are getting it, and then we are fetching, we are basically looping through this array, this all to dos array, and we are adding the items in our front end basically. So this array, initially we are storing the to dos inside of this array, right, in memory, and then anytime we add it, we are storing it to local storage, and then we are mapping through them. So when we refresh the page, this all to dos is going to be empty, but remember that we have this get all to dos function here. If it's empty, immediately the page is refreshed and it becomes empty, it gets back the data from local storage. So it will be as if the array we have here was never empty, right? Because we are getting our data back from local storage inside of this use effect hook. Okay, great. So now we have empty things here. Let's start adding our props. So first of all, we have text to add, right? So inside the text, we're going to do it's an object, if you remember, to do dot text. So it's going to put in the text there for us here. So now as you can see, the text is back, and then for the it's checked, I'm going to put in to do it's checked. Okay, so there's one thing so it means, remember I said earlier that the is checked here prop we added is going to be a boolean, right? Now initially, so for this one, the to do dot is checked, we are setting it, giving it a default value of false, which means by default it shouldn't be checked. Now this brings me to another thing here, which means we have to do something about this radio button we have here to show that it is not checked, because in the finished one we have here, if it's not checked, we only see the border, we don't see any color in the background. So it means we have to do something about it. So inside of our list item, we must make some changes. Okay, so inside, where do we have it here? Okay, inside the is checked, we're going to do some JavaScript logic in here. So let's put this in a curly braces and then add backticks in here, and let's remove the quotes we have in here. All right, so what we are going to do now is this. Let's add this dollar sign, because we are going to add some JavaScript logic. So we're going to say if it's checked, right? If it's checked, it's true, then we are going to put in this class. We're going to use this class, paste it in here. Else, If it's unchecked, the class will be different. Am I having? Oh, okay. I think I've this one here is supposed to be here. Great. So, like so, if it's checked is true, the class is going to be this. Else, the class should be to do radio underscore unchecked unchecked like so. Let me copy this one, and now inside the list item.css, let me add that styling. Now we should also add the same styling here, so it should take the same styling here as well. Now let's see what we have here. Great. So that we maintain the height, the width, and then the border and all that, but just that we are going to change something, which is the background. I'm going to clear the background. So let's come down here and then add that one, paste this one in here, and see the background color should be transparent like so. Okay, great. So now by default it is false, right? By default it is false. So since it is false, there will be no background and then there will be no check sign. Okay, great. So now let's work on its functionality for it. Anytime it's being clicked, we're going to do that in the app.js. Okay, so let's create that function. I'm going to call it um toggle. Okay, let's call it toggle checked like so, and then it's going to be an arrow function. Okay. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to create a variable, right? I'm going to create a variable called updated to dos, because this is what we're about to do is going to affect everything inside the array, right? So, and then let's destructure our all to dos here. So I'm going to explain this code we have here, all to dos. We are going to map through them, and then we are getting the to do, right? And then we are going to do this like so, and we're going to do some text in here. What we're going to do is if the to do id is equal to id. Now this id is going to be a parameter that we are going to add here inside the function. So it's going to be a parameter. So if to do dot id is equal to id, we are going to do something. Now what we are going to do is we are going to set to do dot is checked to be equal to the opposite of what to do dot is checked is. Okay, so now what this means is that we want to pass in the ID we want inside here. Alright. And what this means is that we are letting this updated to do. We are making a copy of all the to-dos, right? This all the to-dos. We are making a copy inside this array. So we have a copy in here. And then we are mapping through the copy. Now, for whilst we are mapping it, we are taking note of each item. You're taking note of each item's ID. And I'm saying that if the ID of that item is equal to the ID we are coming to pass in here, if they are the same, we are going to set the to do dot is checked property inside that item. We are going to set it to the opposite of what it is. So for instance, if it was true and we find that item, we are setting it to false. If it was false, then we are going to set it to true. Basically, that's what this means. So if you find that item, you are going to set it opposite of what the to do dot is checked is. Yeah, so that's what we are doing in here. And then we are going to return the actual to do in here. Okay. So when we are done, then we are going to set all to do's to be the updated to do's here, like so. Okay, so this function here is going to be added in here like so, and have the toggle checked here, and then to add it I'm going to do this, right? Because it takes a parameter which we are going to add. So, and then we paste the function in here, and then the parameter I'm going to add is to do id like so, because we are each to do item here to do item here has a property of ID, like how it has text and is checked. It also has ID, so we're passing that parameter inside the function. Okay, so now let's test this out. When I click on it, great. So now you see, anytime I click on it, we are toggling through the the um the radio button we have in here. So we are changing the state to true, false. Basically, that's what we are doing in here. Okay, great. So now that that is done, um, let's add the delete functionality, right? Anytime we click on this button, we want to delete that particular to do. Okay, that's the next thing we want to add. So let's create that function in here. Let's create it down here. What to call it? Const delete to do. Going to be an arrow function, like so. So let's create a variable here, constant variable here, constant here called filtered do, and then we're going to use um, an inbuilt JavaScript function, which is actually going to make this a lot simple for us. So we're going to do all to do's dot filter, right? And then we are going to take note of each item. Then we are going to check if the to do dot id is not equal to id. Now this id is going to be a parameter that we're going to add in here. We're going to provide its value when we call the function, right? Okay, so this is what this is how we are filtering it. So we are saying that we are getting all the to-dos, right? This array, all to-dos here, we are getting it, and then we are going to loop through them, okay? And then like the filter, the name of the filter, the basic understanding, which is we are removing something and then we are keeping something. And we are filtering it, but then we are removing, or we are keeping, the only thing we are keeping inside the all to do's is anything whose id is not equal to id. So if we find a to do whose id is equal to the id, then we are removing it from this array. Basically, that's what we are doing in here. And then when we are done with that, we are going to set all to do's to the filtered to do, like so. So now we have filtered it, and then we have updated our array to keep the ones which we are maintaining, basically. So let me copy this function in here, and then where we have our list item, this is getting long, let me put it somewhere here. And then the last property is the delete to do. This delete to do is going to take a function in here, like so. And then let me paste it in here, and then like we said earlier, it's going to take a parameter which is do dot id. Okay, so I have to also add a key in here by so that our app doesn't complain. The key is going to be to do dot id. So anytime we map through any JSX element, we need to add a key, like so. Yeah, so we've added the delete to do function here. Yeah, so remember, these parameters are what we added inside our list item. This text delete to do is checked and then toggle checked. Those are the parameters we added, and now we are assigning them values inside our app.js here. Okay, so now let's test our delete to do functionality in here. So when I click on it, as you can see, it's gone. It is deleted. Okay, so let me add a new one, and add another one, add it, and then delete it, and then we can click as well. Now you notice that in the finished one, when we anytime we check, it cancels it and gives it a different color. We are going to do that in the list item, right? Okay, so inside the list item, we are going to do something. So yeah, we're going to do a similar thing we did in here. So we're going to add the curly braces here to add some JavaScript logic, and then a backticks, some backticks, and then let me remove the quotes in here. Okay, great. So what we're going to do is add this dollar sign in here. And we're going to see if it's checked, right? If it's checked, I'm going to set the class name to be to do underscore text underscore check. else it should be what we have in here. Should be what we have in here, like so. Let me remove this, like so. Great. Okay. Okay, so I think it should be the other way around instead. Paste this in here, and then place this here, and then move this. Okay, so if it's checked, it's true. If it's checked, it's true. Okay, I think I'm getting this thing twisted. Let me. So it's supposed to be this way rather. This way rather. So if it's checked, we are going to apply some styling. If it's not checked, then it's going to maintain its default styling. Right. Okay. So first of all, we are going to do a similar thing. This to do check here. We are going to enter our list item.css, and then where we have the to do radio, no, where we have our to do text here, we are going to add the same thing in here. So it's going to basically keep the same styling. So if I check, it's going to be the same, but the only thing we want to change is the color of this text, and then we strike through the text. Basically, that's the new thing we are going to add inside of the the text field here. So let me add the style in the class in here, and then what we are going to do is we are going to add a text decoration of line 2, and then so you can see it's applied, and then we're going to set the color to a hex code here, which is 040F90A1, like so. Yeah, so as you can see, so when we uncheck, it comes back to default, and then when we check, it cancels out. Okay, we can add another one in here, add, and then as you can see, yes, so we can check through it, we can delete it, like so. Okay, great. So the next thing we want to do is, you notice if we delete everything, right? We delete everything. We need something here which will tell us that okay, we have no to do. Okay, like there are no to do's, because if you check the finished one, let me delete everything we have in here. See, we get this message saying there are no to do's. So that's what we want to add now. So inside our app.js, coming to add it in here. And what I'm going to do is all to do's, all to do's dot all to do's, sorry, all to do's dot length. If it's equal to 0, meaning if it's empty, then we're going to do something. If it's empty, let's put in a p tag in here and see there are no to do's, like so. And let's give it a class name here so that we can be able to style it. Class name here of, see, let's just see empty. Let's give it empty. And inside the app.css, where do we have it? We can now style it. But first, let's test this out and see. So as you can see, we have it here. There are no to do's. So now we can start styling it. So what we want to do, the first thing we want to do is change the color to white to make it a lot visible. And then we are going to say text align to be center, and then margin top should be 6 rem, and then we increase the font size a bit, so font size should be 1.5 rem, like so. Great. So now if we add a new to do, say add new one, now it's gone. You see, you can check through, you can add another one, add another, it's there. You can delete it, and we see the updates. Yeah, so basically this is all we have for the to do's. you can add a to do and then click this button. It's going to be added. We've added and you check, and then you can delete it as well. Yeah, so this is all for this video. We've been able to learn quite a lot. Yeah, we've seen how we can add items to local storage and then get those items and then display them on our front end or our design, and how we can make use of React components and basically add some JavaScript logic to our app. So if you have been able to watch through this video and you've gotten this far, you've probably built an app. You have a fully functioning to do app. And if you really enjoyed this video, if you've learned a lot from this video, please subscribe to this channel, like this video as well, and share your thoughts in the comment section. I'm really interested in what you think about this video, and you can share this video as well so that a lot more people can have access to it. I would appreciate that a lot. Yeah, so that brings me to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and watch out for the next video as well. Bye.